Hello, and welcome to Controller to CFO, Path to Promotion. It's a webcast sponsored by the Controllers Council. My name is Lindy Antonelli, partner with Armanino and Controllers Council Board Chair. I'll be your moderator today. First, let's take a look at our agenda for today's webcast. I will introduce our esteemed panelists, then quickly share some background about our sponsors. Then I'll turn it over to our panelist to share his background and answer some questions. We'll gain a lot of insights, I'm sure. We do have time for Q&A, and then we'll share some information about the Controllers Council. But a couple of housekeeping items first. Tomorrow, all attendees will receive an email with a link to this webcast. And as mentioned, we will take questions, so please type in your question into the control panel on your GoToWebinar webcast. Type in the questions and we will try to get to all of them today. With that, I'm pleased to introduce our esteemed panelist, colleague, and friend, Ted Weitzel. Ted is SVP, Finance and Operations at G2 and a director on the Controllers Council Board of Advisors. G2 is the world's largest tech marketplace. Prior to his current role, Ted was controller at both G2 and sister company SteelBrick. Other experience includes Capital One and Big Machine Software. Ted is a CPA and earned a Bachelor of Science in Business from Miami University of Ohio. Ted is an active member of the AICPA and speaker at the Illinois Technology Association, Next Series Club, and Financial Executives International. Okay, before we get started, I did want to share some information about the Controllers Council sponsors who make this webcast and other programming relevant and possible. Our sponsors include Bill.com, fully digitized AP and AR, no in-person approvals and no paper needed. Flowcast, financial close management software, and the controller's best friend. And last but not least, Armanino, my firm, a top 25 accounting and technology consulting firm and strategic business partner to the accounting and finance organization. And now, on to our presentation. Ted, why don't we start with a quick snapshot of your career, how you became a controller, then CFO, and then SVP Finance and Operations.
Sure. Awesome, Lindy. And hopefully you can hear me okay. It's great to speak with you again, and it was nice to catch up before we started this webinar. Well, you know, my career and path has been due in large part to determination and work effort, but mostly it was a lucky job change in my mid-20s. I started out like a lot of accountants that do not go the public accounting route in large multinational manufacturing conglomerates. After a few years of doing inventory audits in unair-conditioned, tin-sided warehouses in the middle of July in Brownsville, Texas for one of them, decided enough is enough. I needed a change. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I knew I didn't want to do that anymore. In one of my many interviews, I was introduced to a company that offered me a taste of entrepreneurship as well as better upward mobility. That company was Big Machines. That was my introduction to the entrepreneurial family led by Godard Abel. In the 5 years that followed, I advanced from senior accountant to accounting manager to director of accounting at Big Machines, running a global accounting function of 15 people with 5 entities in 5 different countries. After Big Machines sold to Oracle in 2013 for nearly $400 million, took a small detour to Capital One where I managed the accounting function for a portfolio of partner card programs. During that time, I was able to assist in the sale of the Best Buy relationship to Citigroup, and the value of those accounts was roughly $7 billion. So obviously a pretty big transaction. And then in 2014, things got really interesting. Godard Abel and the other founders of G2.com had also acquired a small CPQ tool called SteelBrick. At that time, both companies were relatively nascent. It was a big risk to jump out of a super stable gig at Capital One. But again, I felt that entrepreneurial itch and took the job as controller for both companies. Little did I know that controller really meant head of accounting, finance, legal, HR, recruiting, facilities, IT, security, and compliance. For Steelbrick, the next 24 months were a total roller coaster. We were growing revenue exponentially. We raised over $70 million in venture capital, took the team from 5 people to 200 people, purchased a company in the UK called Invoice It, and sold the company to Salesforce for $360 million in 2016. Then after a brief stint in Salesforce, I made the decision to go back to G2 full-time for the first time. To help scale G2 into the place to go when you are making software buying decisions and managing your software stack. At G2, we're curating the only list of every software provider on the planet, driving peer reviews to those products and helping 5 million software buyers make the right software decisions every month. We've also raised $100 million in venture capital from the likes of Accel and IVP and acquired 2 companies in 2019 to expand our offerings. And that, Lindy, is my experience in a nutshell.
Wow. I mean, I have known you for many years, and I think we first met when we were implementing Steelbrick for you, actually, Sage Intacct for Steelbrick.
Yep.
So that was a few years ago, and have watched your career just soar for the past few years. So it's just amazing that what you've done here. And you kind of started it off by saying, it was a lucky job change in the mid-20s, but, I really feel like people are destined to, for their career path. And it sounds like the entrepreneurial way has treated you well and has really helped you climb up a great ladder to success. So congrats for everything you've done.
Yeah, thank you, Lindy.
Yeah.
And another great partner along the way.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yep. That's, strategic business relationships and friendships are very important to me in my career, and I know to you as well. So it's been a two-way street here, and definitely a great partnership. So, kind of getting back, I took a bunch of notes too, but a framing question, and then I'll get back to some other comments that I had here about what you just said. What would you say are the major differences and responsibilities between the controller and the CFO?
Yeah, if I think about it in a very traditional sense, I'd say the major differences are that a controller's role is much more rooted in the block and tackle of financial reporting and compliance. More often than not, the role is limited to just accounting and financial functions. While the CFO position is focused on interpreting the financial reports and really providing strategic direction and guidance to the C-suite and other functional leaders in the organization, as well as managing the external stakeholder relationships, especially in the area of board reporting and fundraising. These days, however, especially in small and mid-sized companies, the lines between those roles are becoming more and more blurred, as I kind of mentioned previously in my experience when I was controller, but really de facto CFO, COO at the same time. Especially in companies that don't necessarily have one or the other role, they tend to kind of have to do double duty, both internally and externally.
Yeah, those are some good differentiators, I would think. And it sounds like, though, in this role, you started as a controller, doing more of that block and tackle, but in a smaller growing business, you took on many hats and wore many hats. I mean, I wrote down a few: accounting, finance, HR, IT, security, compliance, a lot. So how would you say you got the knowledge really to lead all these different sort of sub-organizations or departments within the company?
Yeah, well, I like to say that I'm very dangerous because I'm a I'm like a mile wide river that's 1 foot deep, right? So I know a little bit about a lot of things, and I'm very curious by nature. So um, whatever kind of comes my way, whatever other people don't necessarily want to do or do not believe that they're qualified to do, I kind of jump on, and I really thrive and enjoy learning about new things, as well as doing doing or leading the functions that other people don't necessarily want to do, or that the enterprise does not have the resources or the real need to have a functional leader in those places. So I just never say no, Lindy.
I've seen you in action, Ted, so I do know that. You know, and I think it is to be curious and really enjoy what you do. I mean, it shows if you're passionate and you know, you want to take on other, you know, needs of the company. And I think you have to really believe in the organization as well. You know, and obviously with your leadership, you know, with your board, you've worked with this exec team for now a number of years. So, you know, that probably has something to do with it too, because you guys play off each other really well. And I've seen that in action too.
Absolutely, Linda. Yeah, you definitely have to believe in the organization and the people that you work with in that organization. And then more importantly, that organization has to believe in you, right? So
right.
If you can get it right and find the right people to work with and really own everything you do, it doesn't mean that you have to be right all the time, but you have to own your failures. You'll just be given a lot more opportunity.
Good words of advice there. I do want to get back. I see some questions coming in already from the audience, but wanted to kind of shift back to the title of the webcast, and it's here on the screen: Controller to CFO, Path to Promotion. So how, and this is a couple pronged question, really. I mean, I think our audience would want to know, because they've logged in to listen to you here, Ted, but first, how does a controller position himself for the CFO promotion? And then we'll go back to, you know, some other key actions after that. But if you could share some thoughts with us of, you know, what did you do and what do you see others do to kind of get to, you know, poise yourself for that promotion?
Great. I think I have a few do's and a few don'ts. So, you know, there's definitely some landmines out there, but I'm going to go with the do's and the ways that you can position yourself to grow your career and step into that next role as a CFO or de facto head of finance and accounting and other things. So number one is, do say yes to additional duties outside the scope of finance and accounting. If you want to be a CFO, you really need to become a trusted partner to every function in the organization. You need to know how each function operates in order to assist them to make strategic decisions, and they need to trust you. So building relationships internally is absolutely key to taking that next step outside of just being limited and focused to finance and accounting. So spend a lot of time developing those deep relationships and gaining the trust of the other functions in your organization. Number two, and this was a really tough one for me, was to hone your presentation skills. You are, of course, already a top-notch financial advisor, and you have amazing financial acumen if you're a controller, but you need to be able to communicate to people that, one, are full-on financial sharks in the case of venture capitalists and private equity, and two, people who are much less financially savvy than yourself. So you need to know your audience and adjust appropriately when you're presenting, and there will be a lot of presenting in the CFO role. You know, just the other day, I was kind of giving our monthly recap to the senior leadership team at G2. And, you know, I was saying, hey, we've made a remarkable turnaround and put in some amazing smart growth policies to navigate through these unprecedented times. We were really in growth mode. We were burning tons of cash and at the beginning of the year, and we had to really rethink the way that we were running the business so that we didn't run out of capital. And I made the comment that for the first time in the company's history, we were EBITDA positive for the month of August. And what an amazing turnaround that had been from the beginning of the year. And our CMO goes, and I just also mentioned how much cash we had burned in the prior month. And he goes, "Oh, does that mean that I can tell everybody that we're cash flow positive?" I was like, no, it doesn't mean that.
No.
that we aren't. So, you're going to be an educator to the people that you are working with a lot of the time, but you're also going to have to be able to answer those hard questions as well. Number 3 on the do list is dress, act, and speak like a C-level employee. Play over whatever part is needed to win over not only your internal stakeholders, but the trust and respect of external stakeholders, whether they're like super sharp but laid back West Coast VC board, or stuffy suit wearing bankers, or the Wall Street elite. You need to gain their trust and their confidence. And you have to be the type of person that they will associate with trust and confidence. So, it's not necessarily a be yourself position all the time. Number 4, you have to think strategically. You have to execute on value creation. One of my favorite sayings is the CFO needs to be a significant part of growing the beans in addition to counting them. So, you're not just reporting anymore. You are figuring out a way to take the company in the direction that it needs to go in order to grow. And then number 5, I think this is the most important one, is recruit, grow, invest in, and trust your finance and accounting team and the leaders on those teams to manage the day-to-day finance and accounting function. You cannot be a successful CFO if you are in the weeds on month-end close, or are a blocker in financial reporting, or are bogged down in the day-to-day functions of finance and accounting. So those are my do's. Do you have any more that you want to throw on top of those before I go on to the don'ts, Lindy?
Well, I think you really nailed it. You can't do it yourself. The last one that you just said. If you keep your arms wrapped around everything and try and manage every task, that's thrown your way, you won't succeed, and definitely, you won't be able to grow into that new position. So I agree with you there. I think the strategic growth, and executing on the strategic plan and the mission of the company is totally important. And, growing and counting the beans is a good slogan. And definitely get to know, your board and your external and internal stakeholders, and, relate to them. And I think, you've done a fantastic job with that over the years, whether it be, like you said, the Wall Street elite, or the bankers, or the California cool, VC types, read the style, know the style of your stakeholders, is huge. And the things you said at the very beginning, you've got to, think like a CFO, and, the presentation skills are, very important too, with, even, something like this to an outside audience, really helps hone presentation skills as well. So I thank you again for presenting today with me. And I'm curious to hear your don'ts, so I'll let you talk about those.
Yeah, well, the number 1 don't, and I think a lot of people fall into this trap, is don't be the bean counting curmudgeon that only says no, right? You can say no, and this is why, but maybe we could do this. So you have to be able to form these interesting relationships with people where they're comfortable bringing their ideas, and you're also comfortable analyzing those ideas and telling them where they're wrong, but not in a way that pisses them off or hurts the relationship or doesn't add value to what it is, what the end goal is that they're trying to accomplish. I see this almost every day where the CEO is just getting, basically internal sales pitches for doing new and different things. And, you can't, as an organization, you can't do everything all at once. So a big part of my role is taking all of those pitches and kind of scoring them and saying, hey, this one I think is a good idea, but we have limited resources, and there are these 3 other ideas that I think we should go after first. Or can you make the economics of this path better? And then maybe we can reprioritize it. So the big one is just don't just say no. Say no, but, and work with the team to get where the organization needs to go. The number 2 is don't tolerate fools. Surround yourself by very important people that are smarter than you. Your job is not to be the smartest person in the room. Your job is to listen to all the very smart people and help them make decisions, or make the call yourself when you have management by committee and nobody can figure out which way to go. Sometimes you just have to say, well, I think that we should do this, and I'll own it in success or in failure. Number 3 is never betray your integrity or ethics. And this is probably one that is very unique to the CFO position. One slip up here and you'll lose the trust and the stature that you've worked so hard to build within the organization. You must own every decision and recommendation you make, whether it is correct or incorrect, and must never ever bend or break any rules to make your company look better than it is, or make yourself look better than you are. Honesty is not the best policy, it's the only policy for a CFO. You're the fact checker and the arbiter of truth and reality. And then number 4 is don't rest on your laurels and have a mindset of we've always done it this way. You need to be creative. You need to always be driving the organization in a better, smarter, more efficient direction. And then one last thing is don't isolate yourself. A lot of us finance and accounting folks tend to be introverts, and growing up, I certainly was. But early in my career, I made the decision that I was going to get myself out there. I was going to get involved in whatever groups I could to not only meet other finance and accounting professionals, but other SaaS software operators. So I got very involved early on with Illinois Technology Association. I'm from Chicago, so that one makes a lot of sense. We founded a finance and accounting leadership club called the Next Series Club, which has now 50 plus members of heads of finance and accounting from Chicago Tech. And Lindy graciously got me into Financial Executives International, and has also opened a lot of doors for me to get my name, get my brand out there, and make amazing connections who can fill the gaps that I have in my knowledge, and help me kind of pinpoint some blind spots and be a resource to go to when I don't have the answers.
Fantastic.
That's it.
Yeah, good don't. Yeah, I love the, just don't just say no, say no, but, or maybe, because it's easy. I mean, very early on in my career, I started in public accounting, and I started counting inventory in St. Louis in the summertime in vats of Clorox bleach and warehouses as well. And so I know about counting beans, but you have to, along the way and along your career path, decide if you're just that bean counter and introvert and you don't have the confidence or comfort level to move out, then maybe you're not, geared up to be a CFO. I mean, that's the other side, but I think all these do's and don'ts are super helpful here, and I know our audience, they're sending me questions right now, so we can maybe elaborate on some of these as well. But I think honesty is really the only policy. In my business, as you know, we've done business together for many years, Ted, and in implementing accounting systems and selecting your technology stack, and I represent Sage Intact, but I know the competition very well, and I always start off every sort of introductory discovery call with, pick my brain. I know a lot about everything. I'm representing Sage Intact, but I will be candid and truthful in my responses for the 3 or 4 or 5 systems that you are looking at, because I do have that knowledge. And I think, that gains the respect of of who you're interacting with right away, if you hold your own and, and be honest. So I do agree with your don'ts as well, very well. Okay, there are some more questions coming in. I wanted to look at my questions here. So, kind of, you mentioned some actions and accomplishments of, networking and moving, duties and responsibilities. Do controllers, would you recommend what you did is kind of go up the ladder at your own company? Do you recommend, do you have experience of others that say, I can't get promoted in my own company, so I'm going outside to look? What do you think that looks like, going up the ladder at one place or moving somewhere else?
That's a great question, Lindy. And it's often one that I'm asked or I end up answering in discussions with people that work for me or people that are asking me for advice or career advice that I just know. And what I tell people is, you might get your paycheck from XYZ Incorporated, but you work for whatever your name is, Incorporated. So if the opportunities are lacking where you currently are, you need to go out and find them elsewhere. Whether or not it hurts your current organization, or you might feel guilty about leaving because they've been good to you or something like that. But if the opportunities are not there, you need to own your career and you need to make new ones for yourself. And I got very lucky 12 years ago when I fell in with Godard Abel and the other leaders at Big Machines, Steel Brick, and G2. But, I got there because I didn't have the opportunity or the desire to continue up the career path where I was prior to that. And, I, to this day, will investigate other companies and take recruiter calls to find out what's out there, what's in the market, whether or not there's something that is potentially more interesting for me. More often, well, obviously, 100% of the time, it's either a pass or I know so-and-so that would be a great fit for this company. And that's also a really great way to make new relationships and to broaden those relationships, Lindy, is to get other people jobs and connect companies to great talent.
Sure.
It's just really good for your personal brand. And also it feels amazing when you get the right person to the right company and you get to see their career really explode.
Yeah, that's cool. And I think it's educational as well. Yeah, what's going on in the marketplace, what companies are, growing, and just a general education, is important too. We've got a bunch of really good questions coming in, so I'm going to look up one here. Okay, Ted, do you see the controller role as growing in importance in this current pandemic and economic environment?
Absolutely. It's cliche now, but it's unprecedented times. And companies are having to diverge drastically from the plans that they had probably just put in place in December or January uh, of last year or early this year. And they're and the companies are looking at their controllers to answer the questions, to figure out what levers we pull in order to stay afloat, or in some interesting instances, take advantage of the current situation. There have been some companies that we have seen just absolutely explode, such as Zoom, anything that has to do with e-learning, anything that has to do with virtual collaboration. But we've also seen a lot of companies that have not fared well at all, whether it's events-based companies, and they're looking to their controllers to say, hey, how do we ensure that we have enough capital to survive this and then thrive when the economy turns around? So the controller role is more crucial than it's ever been, and probably more visible than it's been in a long time.
Yeah, so true, especially in this day. Well, a question just came in from one of our attendees. I was going to go in this direction anyway, so I'm glad it was brought up by someone else. Are controllers and CFOs becoming more involved in technology sourcing and selection?
I myself sign every single contract in the company, and that's a lot of contracts. They go through a level of review before they get to me, so I might kind of be the final stamp of approval, and it doesn't take me too much time, but I do it because I want to know what's happening in the organization, especially from a vendor perspective. And our third largest cost at G2 is technology. It is our software stack. And I can't tell you, Lindy. I mean, it's every day people are trying to buy a new tool and spend more money. So yes, the answer is I and my controller and my finance manager are very involved in technology sourcing and selection for many different reasons, not only from a cost perspective, but a employee engagement and happiness perspective. We eat our own dog food here at G2, and we have a tool called G2 Track that helps us manage our software stack. And it has this really cool feature that is it's basically a pulse survey, and it asks people, do you like the tool that you are engaging with on a day-to-day basis? And we find that when the NPS for that tool is high, it correlates highly with just general employee NPS. So yes, the answer is yes. We're super involved in technology sourcing, selection, and management.
Cool. Yeah, I'm seeing that more and more, over the years. And in my career, and I started in on-premise accounting software selection, and we always and only dealt with the CIO, even though it was an accounting tool. I mean, we maybe met the controller and CFO during the kickoff meeting. Most of the time it was sourced by IT, selected by IT, and dumped onto the accountant's laps. So, but more and more, I've got a controller and a CFO. Occasionally a CTO might get involved, but really not even, and I rarely even meet a CIO anymore. So I'm glad that, it's ringing true for you as well. So that's a good sign.
In technology, it's just to add on to that, Lindy. I mean, I think that functional leaders, whether it's accounting and finance, marketing, or sales, are really empowered these days to investigate and pick the tools that are best for their functions. And the CIO or IT is really just there to give it the security check, right? And then finance is there to assist in making sure that they get the best deal and the terms are good and everything like that. But we're definitely seeing that the buyers of technology are the functional owners of that technology these days.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And which is like why I like the sort of the best in class solutions that aren't the big monoliths anymore. That if you go with their platform, you have to pick all 25 of their tools that's in their tool set, versus pick. You said it. Let the functional owners and the people that are using the tools pick the best tools for their specific needs. So I would agree with that as well. Okay, well, enough about technology here for a moment. Another question has come in. Ted, what's your perspective on CFO's opportunities to get the CEO promotion? You see this happening, or maybe you could talk a little bit about what's the most likely CEO promotion track?
Yeah, so in my experience, I don't see a lot of CFOs going to CEO. Most of the time, it's because they don't want to. They really enjoy the job that they do as CFO. They've spent years and years and years honing those skills, and they just enjoy it. I think that I see a lot of controllers that do the same thing. They really enjoy the controller function, and they look at the CFO and they're like, oh my gosh, I gotta talk to all these people. It's a little bit more vague. It's not as deep. It's not very deep work, and I don't want to do that. So I think it really depends on who you are and where you want to go. Obviously, being a CFO is a great resume builder for being a CEO if you want to go that way. I'd say that CEOs more often than not are kind of coming more from other areas in the business though, or from outside of business. Maybe they weren't operators. Maybe they spent a few years in VC land or PE land, and they kind of got to be, dropped into portfolio companies to solve some problems, and they got to, see some different things. And obviously they know what metrics external stakeholders are looking for, and they can help drive those things. Well, I was going to say one other thing that I think was interesting, but it slips my mind now. Maybe it'll come back to me, and I'll jump right in.
Okay. Well, yeah, maybe it'll come back. Have some Perrier.
Yeah.
So another question came in, and I see this a lot because I do sell into small businesses, that sometimes the controller has the title of controller, but really filling the CEO's role. And this question that's coming in. If you're compensated as a CFO, does it matter if you use the title of controller? Again, they're saying, especially in a small company.
Yeah, and I think that it's very nebulous these days around titling. I don't have the CFO title at G2 right now because my purview is kind of much larger than just what traditionally the CFO would do. And I was the de facto CFO at prior companies, but had a controller title. So, I think whatever fits for you, if the title is really important, ask for the title. If the title isn't that important, but the compensation package is, ask for that. If the job duties and responsibilities and the fulfillment that you get from that is most important, go in that route. I'll say this though, you have to advocate for yourself and for what you really want. Nobody is going to advocate for you. If you're deserving of a promotion, if you're deserving of a title and you don't ask for it, it's very unlikely. And it's actually, especially when it comes to compensation, if you don't ask for it, you're more likely than not going to end up not having it. So you got to be your own best advocate and go after the things that are really, truly important to you in your career.
That was very well said, Ted, and I totally agree as well. And you've done a great job at self-advocating, and it shows, and I think that's very important. Another question came in, and I know the answer to it, but I thought I'd just ask you: is a CPA required to be a CFO? CPA degree?
No. I see a lot of CFOs coming from finance, coming from investment banking, coming from VC land, having MBAs, not having MBAs, being entrepreneurs, and having general finance acumen. I would say that a CPA is less important to the CFO title than it is to a controller title.
Oh, yeah, that's a good denotation there. Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Ted, was there anything else you wanted to share with our audience here today? Any final words of wisdom? I mean, you gave us a lot of good advice already.
I hope so. I think the final one is, it's not final, it's to reiterate the importance of getting out there, building relationships, expanding your personal brand. And I am more than happy to speak with anybody, answer any questions, have a brief conversation about what's going on in your world. You can reach me at ted@g2.com or at LinkedIn if you don't mind a slow response. But it's just really important to put yourself out there, be a little vulnerable, ask for help, especially when you don't know the answer, and that will be very well received and help you on your way.
Well, fantastic, Ted, and really appreciate you spending time with us today and sharing your experience, your words of wisdom here, and offering to help our audience. I mean, most of Controllers Council, and as a board member as well, we really appreciate you doing that, building this community, and as you said, the importance of getting out there. Controllers Council is all about building a community of your peers and getting advice from people, and moving on to partnering and sharing ideas and thoughts. I mean, it's a thought leadership site. It's it's building this community. We feel the Controllers Council, or controllers, have largely been overlooked. Even Ted, the membership organizations that you belong to have been, FEI, Finance Executives International. We're at the CFO level, largely, play, and that's great. I'm heavily involved in that as well. But Controllers Council is really geared toward the finance and controller professionals in organizations. Good, thank you. I've got a slide up that gives you some information, and you'll get this deck tomorrow, but it's got the different links and URLs to where you can go to find more information about our Controllers Council. I would like to thank Ted again and thank all of our attendees. I do have just 2 more slides, I think, some more information I wanted to share. Here's some member community features and benefits of the Controllers Council. We offer training, certification. We've got the Certified Professional Controller certification that's coming out, that's out now, that you can actually start to apply for. We do offer networking, and we're going to be offering a recognition program with a Controller of the Year, very similar to the CFO of the Year that the FEI puts on. So, look out for that. We also have a career center that you can find new job opportunities, and we offer areas of leadership within the Controllers Council. I would urge all of you to join one of our committees and even take a leadership level as leading one of our committees. If you have a passion for a certain business or industry or size of company, we're launching our committees currently as well. So really encourage you to look at our website and get involved and get out there. And I do wanted to share with you a couple save the dates as well. We've got September 22nd. We've got Achieving Finance Reinvention. It's the 5 steps to transformation. Please join us for that. It's coming up next week. The end of October, we've actually got a study that we're going to be taking right now. It's called the Contemporary Controller. So I urge you to participate in our study. It's just about 15 questions, and we will be sharing the results of that. And then we've got in November a strategic annual planning roundtable webcast plan. So lots to get involved with over the next couple of months. Would love for all of you to not only subscribe, but join the council with a membership to really be involved in this great organization. So, and I do thank you, Ted. Really appreciate you coming on today, and wish everybody here the best of luck and success in 2020 and beyond. Have a great day.
Wonderful to be here, Lindy. Thank you to everyone.
Thanks, Ted. Bye-bye.